They walked into the tomb, Morgan relaxed but cautious and Veta complaining. "Why, by the goddess, didn't that damned quartermaster carry blasters?" she muttered. "What am I supposed to do with a sword?" "Generally," Morgan answered dryly, "I hit people with it." Veta glared at him, Morgan feeling a tiny flinch of fear immediately after. She really is good at hiding her emotions. Like a cat. She marched ahead, swinging her saber as if to get a feel for it. Her Leku bounced after her, catching what little light there still was. A really pretty cat. He shook the thought away, focusing on his surroundings. The tomb was dark, and the entrance narrow, so he couldn't see far. His other senses told him they were alone. For now. They came to the first switch with no trouble, Veta flicking it before her head snapped to a shadowy corner. Morgan followed her gaze, not seeing anything. His first scan didn't reveal anything either. His second, more thorough, scan revealed a short blip of life, before that too was gone. The blip felt ravenously hungry. "You can come out now," he called to the darkness. "I won't attack if you won't." Veta backed away from the shadow slowly. A single-eyed green humanoid stalked out of the darkness, his frame thin. Who is this? Who comes speaking to the Say-Run? Is it Acolyte? Did it bring food? "I did not bring food, no," Morgan answered. "At least none of the food that you want." "What are you doing here?" Veta asked, holding her saber tightly. "This isn't exactly a home, but you look like you've been here a while." Say-Run grunted. "Say-Run once lived in the academy. Was once like you." Say-Run feasted on the scraps of the beast pens. Until the overseer sent it away to starve. "You were Sith?" she asked, alarmed. "No," Morgan answered for him. "Or not a normal one. He is good at hiding, but he has no shield. No defenses." He pierced deeper, looking at the chaos in Say-Run. How the dark ran rampant. How it hungered. "You're a mutation," Morgan stated. "You can strip the dark from someone. Feast on it." Say-Run grunted again. Yes, that is what the overseer said. His special meals gave me strength. Such strength. Enough to hunt for food on my own. Enough to devour any. Veta looked at Morgan, concern plain on her face. "Is he saying what I think he's saying?" "Yes." Say-Run hissed. "Say-Run will eat from you. Devour you. Then it will be strong again. Then it will have its revenge." Say-Run jumped, clearing the distance faster than any acolyte Morgan had seen. He had not been fighting mere acolytes, however. He had sharpened himself against Sith, champion and overseer both. So he stepped aside, Say-Run's claws missing by a hand's width. His saber whistled as it cut through the air, biting deep into his attacker's flesh. Where any other head would have come clean off, Say-Run still had half of his attached when he jumped back to clear space. His neck bubbled, flesh pulsing. "Say-Run is weak," Say-Run told them, dismayed. "But Say-Run will heal. Will eat from softer prey. Then it will stalk. Hunt." Morgan watched as he turned, attempting to run deeper into the tomb. The grenade detonated right next to Say-Run's ear, his weakened head coming off with a tear. He looked at Veta, who was shifting nervously. Say-Run sagged to the ground, dead. "I may have swiped 1 or 2 grenades from some of the soldiers we passed," she admitted. He wondered if that was foresight or kleptomania, but he was glad for it. Hunting Say-Run through a tomb he didn't know would have been a pain. A pretty thief cat. "Feel free to steal what you can in the tomb, as long as it's not ancient relics or such. No need to have the Imperial Reclamation Service after our head." Veta grinned at him. "Have I told you you're the best Sith boss ever?" "No. Also, I'm your only Sith boss, so that doesn't count." Morgan felt a wave of anger and fear go through her, just before she stamped it down. He tilted his head. "Unless I'm not. Am I?" She shook her head, a complicated look on her face. "That Tremel guy. He was your mentor, right? Tremel. Morgan corrected. And yes, he was my overseer. Well, he's the only one that uses the 3 prisoners to judge test. First time that happened, I didn't think much of it. Just another Sith being cruel. Trial. It's called a trial. Right, trial. So when that Sith, a Twi'lek, came to fetch me to get into a tomb, I was delighted. Thought maybe she wouldn't be as shitty to me as she was to those prisoners, we both being Twi'lek and all that. Veta scratched her collar, a distant look on her face. I was wrong. We also didn't even make it 4 hours, tripping over a droid patrol. I ran as she was torn apart, screaming as she died. She turned to look at a mural on the wall, away from him. So back into my cage I went, until another 3 prisoners were brought and judged. That one, some Zabrak, never came to get me. Thought maybe I wasn't part of Tremel's trials anymore. Until a 3rd came to judge, and a few days later she came to get me. She reveled in causing pain, that one. Really liked being nasty. Veta shrugged, folding a leku over her shoulder. Made her a lot of enemies, apparently, because we were ambushed a day into the tomb. Raped her. Killed her. I'll admit to not having felt much sympathy. She tilted her head, looking closer at a statue. They hated her so much I was forgotten, so I tried to sneak off planet. Got caught, and back into my cage I went. And then I came to judge 3 prisoners. Morgan finished for her. How long have you been here? On Korriban, I mean. Veta shook her hand. Hard to say. Spent about 6 months in that cage, sometimes months and months before another Sith came to get me. Before that I was tomb diving, no real idea how long. About another 5 or so months, if I had to guess. Those footprints in the tomb of Marka Ragnos. He thought back. Must have been the Zabrak. Unless some other acolyte was feeling particularly suicidal. Morgan hummed, taking the shock control remote from his belt. Veta visibly flinched. He pressed a button near the bottom, crushing the remote in his hand afterwards. The collar dropped to the ground with a clack, loud enough to echo. Morgan dropped the scraps in his hand, feeling confusion mixed with slim hope radiate from Veta. I woke up in a shuttle a little over a year ago, with no real idea how I got there. I was fat, he laughed when Veta's eyes dropped to his stomach briefly, wondering when he had last let out honest cheer. Out of shape and generally possessing little to no useful skills. He sobered quickly, his humor fading as he thought back to those early days. We were 100 when we started. A year later, filled with more violence and death than I ever could have imagined, we were 36. I learned more about combat and the Force than I ever wanted, a friend ensuring that I survived long enough to be able to do so. We were collared when we arrived, and although they were taken off a month into the project, I still remember the weight on my neck. Morgan took a deep breath, wondering why he was saying all this. I despise slavery. Not an opinion you'll find me uttering frequently, seeing as it goes against the direct will of the Dark Council, but I do. I'm not saying I can change anything, not really, but I hate it. Veta had picked up the collar, turning it around in her hand. So I'll probably tell anyone that asks, tell anyone that I answer to, that I don't need a collar to control you. That I am not so weak as to need a collar to ensure compliance or obedience. She looked at him, wide-eyed and still messing with the collar. It will be a lie. I will not lead slaves. Not now and not ever. As long as this task lasts, as long as I have authority over your future, you will not be a slave. Morgan cleared his throat, feeling awfully close to embarrassed. Let's continue, we still have 3 switches to activate. Yay, Veta mumbled when he turned around, we do. They walked in silence for over an hour, finding little but dust and another switch that Veta activated. It was shortly afterwards that they came upon the first signs of habitations. Morgan heard it before he felt it, roaring beasts and groaning metal. They turned a corner to see 2 groups fighting in the distance, droids and beasts tearing into each other. Veta looked between them and him, tilting her head when Morgan just stood there, drinking some water. Aren't we, going in? He looked at her, confused. Why would we do that? They seem perfectly willing to tear one another to shreds. No need for us to get involved, not until one side remains. Yes, Veta agreed, that's smart. Sensible. You don't have to sound so shocked. He muttered dryly, making sure to keep his voice down. It's just, you're not behaving very much like a normal Sith, she said cautiously. He snorted quietly. Good. Normal Sith are self-destructive, probably insane and utterly incapable of working together for any length of time. It's a miracle the Jedi haven't killed us all. Morgan put a hand to his chin. Well, besides the times they almost did. But why change after several near-extinction events? Not like the Jedi came so very close to killing us all over and over because of greed, backstabbing and a general inability to trust. Veta giggled softly, a sound he liked more than he wanted to admit. Right, not their fault at all. The roaring died down, both of them looking over to see the droids had won the battle. Several damaged ones were dragged around to a wall, where more droids were doing basic repairs. The beasts were shoved to the side where they blocked the main path, but otherwise left alone. Those droids have blasters. Veta muttered enviously. I want them. Morgan took out his warblade, enforcing his body. Well, let's get you one. He looked back at her apologetically. Not to be rude, but best if you stay out of this one. Unless I've severely misjudged your saber experience. She shook her head, so he dropped his pack and dashed down the hallway. The droids reorganized smoothly as he came close, weapons snapping up and saber-wielding droids coming to the front. Morgan looked to the ground briefly as he jumped high, seeing half a dozen blades next to scrapped droids on the ground. He picked one up as he soared, pushing it to a droid at this left. The weapon shot through the air, but unlike when he had fought the Overseer, he didn't release control over it. Instead, after the weapon had impaled the droid, he sent it flying to another one. He finished his descent, cutting into the head of one, then two blaster-wielding droids. His second saber continued flying through the air, hacking or stabbing where it could. Droids were harder to feel in the Force than organic beings, from what he had found, but these were old. Old enough to become sentient, if your programming allowed it. He thought grimly. Fighting well-programmed self-repairing droids was bad enough, but if they achieved awareness? I really don't want to find out if they could mine enough or to build themselves into a proper army. He focused. Being so old means the Force has gathered around them. That, I can use. His warblade sang as he twisted, dodging a bolt at the same time he nearly cleaved a torso in two. He kept his flying blade under stern control, cutting or distracting those that tried to surround him. Soon, little was left but scrap. He looked back to see Veta stare at him with her mouth slightly open, walking closer. He resisted the urge to puff out his chest. I really need to meditate on that. Morgan told himself. Also need to find something smaller than a saber. That was far too taxing on my reserves. Veta almost skipped over to a fallen droid, picking up its rifle before dropping it again. Now these will do nicely, she said, taking two blaster pistols instead. Very nicely. Morgan looked down the hallway as she fluttered from one droid to another, ripping small pieces off them. The small satchels on her belt quickly filled, and she scampered up to him to put some of the larger parts in his backpack. Veta hummed as she finished, explaining without being asked to. That should do, the rest isn't worth the wait. About 10 grand with the proper haggling. He sighed. Assume I haven't used credits in a year, and can't quite recall from before that. What will it buy? She looked at him strangely. All right. I took mostly electronics and such, and it's well made. Should sell for 10,000 credits to the proper buyer, and with parts such as these that means almost everyone. Veta scratched her neck. 10 grand is about, let's say 4 months' work for the average dock worker. Not a fortune, but enough to go mostly wherever you want. Right. Morgan nodded. Thank you for explaining. Sure, she said, No problem. He looked to the blasters at her belt. Want to practice with those? Next time you need them, our lives might depend on it. She took them out, pointing at the body of a beast. She fired twice, soft clicking heralding 2 scorch marks on the floor. Veta frowned as she walked some distance away, shooting again. Morgan watched as her accuracy improved by the minute, eventually holstering her pistols again. That'll do. Not exactly at my best. Morgan nodded, wondered how that was anything but extreme accuracy, and they moved on. What lone beasts they came across were easily dealt with, his warblade and Veta's shooting more than a match for teeth and claws. What larger groups that found them he twisted, heightening aggression until they turned on one another. It was after the 3rd switch that they came across more droids, clanking feet heralding a large patrol. They opened fire the moment they spotted them. Veta shot 4 by the time Morgan had crossed the distance, warblade cutting and stabbing. He opted to not pick up a blade this time, his reserves not able to keep up with the expense. This group wasn't damaged and whittled down by beasts, however, and soon Morgan was forced to give ground lest Veta be overrun. Having someone to protect during a fight rather limited his mobility, but it also gave him firepower. The droids had good aim, Veta's form half hidden behind a statue attesting to that, but it was also her stolen grenade that turned the tide. The resulting explosion ripped nearly a quarter apart, the remainder struggling to contain him. The droids did put more distance between themselves to limit the effect of explosions, but that gave Morgan even more room to work with. After minutes of intense fighting, an eternity when every stray bolt can be the end, their numbers dwindled enough that Morgan started focusing on offense rather than protecting Veta. The patrol didn't last much longer after that. Veta was humming again as she stripped the scrap she deemed valuable, replacing some items in her belt and near filling his backpack to the brim. Morgan ate as she worked, fluttering from fallen droid to droid. She seems in her element, if nothing else. Veta's blaster shot up when the echo of footsteps sounded down the hall, but he waved her down. She hesitated, before walking over and accepting the ration he handed her. For the next few minutes the sounds kept coming closer and closer, Veta's hand tapping her holstered blaster intermittently as she gnawed on the dry bar. "How are you breaking this stuff with your teeth?" Veta exclaimed, Morgan crunching on another corner. "I've seen Durasteel more biteable." Morgan smiled widely. "The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural." Veta narrowed her eyes. "Now I haven't been watching much holomovies this past year, but that sounds like a quote." His smile faltered, thinking of another life. "I can't quite remember my mother's face," he thought, alarmed. "Memory isn't supposed to go that quickly, is it?" "Hey, you all right?" Veta asked, concern clear in her voice. Morgan shook his head. "I suppose it doesn't matter. Not like I can go back, and I wouldn't fit in even if I did." "I'm fine," he answered, "just thinking about my life before. What am I supposed to do if I did get back? Get a job? Work 9 to 5, get married?" Morgan shook his head again. "Do I even want to?" Veta nodded. "Oh. Yay, I get that. What was it like?" Mila's entrance saved him from having to answer, 4 other acolytes of their old faction with her. Soldiers marched after them, dozens and dozens of them. She bowed when she came close, while the other acolytes saluted. The soldiers stopped, not quite sure what was going on. "Good to see you again, my lord." "And you, Mila," he greeted in return. "What brings you to this old tomb?" She relaxed, barking to the soldiers behind her to set up a perimeter. "It's all I've seen since we got to the academy. I've been inside the main building exactly once." The other acolytes with her joined the soldiers, until it was just her, Veta and Morgan. "Mila, this is Veta," he introduced. "She's assisting me with my trial." Veta waved, fighting hard to keep a grin from her face when Mila awkwardly waved back. "Veta, this is Mila. She's a close ally of mine." Mila nodded. A lieutenant walked up, Morgan's scan revealing him as Sergeant Corman before he spoke. My lady, the room is secure and the men have been given leave to rest. Very good, Lieutenant, she said. Ensure proper watch is held. I won't have a repeat of this morning. Corman saluted, taking off his helmet. Yes, ma'am. Myrla turned back to him. This is Lieutenant Corman. He's been assigned to me this morning. Good to see you again, sir. He spoke. Morgan nodded to the man, eyeing his insignia. I see you have been promoted. Congratulations. She frowned, looking between them. You already know one another, then? Indeed. My lord saved us from certain death a few days ago. The lieutenant explained. Since then we've been combined with another platoon, and I've been promoted. You're lucky to be assigned under Myrla, Lieutenant. A more competent acolyte you will not find. Morgan spoke honestly. Yes. Myrla broke in, Morgan feeling embarrassment bleed out of her. She didn't show an inch of it. And what have you been sent for, my lord? Veta piped up, tired of being ignored. Oh, you know, the usual. Steal an ancient lightsaber, become apprenticed to some big shot and possibly get ambushed by a bitter Sith. Myrla scowled at her. Veta grinned to hide the spike of fear it caused. Morgan sighed. She's not wrong. My last task before becoming the true apprentice to Darth Barras is to acquire a lightsaber, and the other acolyte I beat to become Barras's apprentice is likely going to try and kill us before we do. I see, Myrla said evenly. Still, she should not speak for you, my lord. Morgan waved her complaint away. I care little for decorum, you know that. She's a good shot and knows these tombs. That's more important than civility. Don't forget my winning personality. Veta broke in. Corman stifled a grin. I don't think that will be a problem. Myrla forcefully coughed, interrupting whatever Veta was about to say in reply. In any case, is there something we can do to help? Lord Zethix was quite clear that we assist you in any manner possible. He shook his head, looking around the room. He saw half the soldiers moving with practiced, smooth motions while the others kept glancing down the tunnels. One half joked softly while the other ate and checked gear with trembling hands. The acolytes were further down each end of the hallway, but he couldn't quite see what they were doing. Half veterans, half rookies. He decided. No need, Myrla. This task is ours alone. And besides, I wouldn't want a vengeful acolyte killing half your men to get to me. She frowned again, but nodded. Very well. We will be in the tomb for a while yet. Do not hesitate to contact us should you need assistance. She handed him a communicator, nodding to it. It's linked to mine directly. Actually, Morgan reconsidered, any chance you have a knife on you? Something relatively lightweight, if possible. Myrla looked at the lieutenant, who nodded. Osler. Get over here. He called. A trooper, scout patch visible on his shoulder, ran up. Hand the Sith your vibroknife, private. Morgan took it, thanking the soldier, and looked to Corman. The private jogged back to his squad. I hope that was standard issue, and I didn't just take his family heirloom or something. The lieutenant barked a laugh. Nothing of the sort, sir. All scouts carry one as part of their kit, and he won't need it here. Not much scouting to do with 5 Sith escorting us. He seems more at ease. He could go far with Myrla to shield him from politics. Good. Now, I think it's time for me and Veta to take our leave. Things to do, tombs to raid. Myrla and Corman left after saying goodbye, the latter after saluting again, leaving just him and Veta. You all done with the droids? She nodded, and they left the soldiers behind as they moved deeper into the tomb. It was after they were out of earshot that Veta spoke up. So why didn't we enlist the help of 5 Sith and near 50 soldiers? Could have made this a whole lot easier. For the reasons I said. He answered. Morgan looked at her, curious. Did you think I was lying? No. Veta protested. Just, would have made your job easier. He hummed. True, But it would have made theirs harder, and we don't really need the help. Veta clicked the last switch into place, looking over her shoulder to see Morgan finish up the patrol. His new vibroknife hummed softly as it flew from one droid to the next, parting steel as easy as flesh. She suppressed a shudder. And to think I thought he was scary before. She suppressed the urge to rub her neck. To make sure the collar was really gone, and all this wasn't just some really vivid daydream. Nope, she thought, still gone. What kind of game are you playing, Sith? She again tried to stamp down on the spark of hope in her chest, on the thought that maybe, just maybe, this time it would be different. That she wouldn't be going back to that cursed cage after they were done here. A lifetime of rubbing shoulders with the vile and untrustworthy had taught her to be wary of unexplained kindness. Her youth as a slave had shown her no one did anything without wanting something in return. Piracy had trained her to bury her feelings, her pain, so that it couldn't be used against her. But the damned spark just wouldn't go out. The idea that this Sith would not just honor his word, but maybe take her off Korriban. Even, if she was very lucky, set her free. She scoffed internally. There's hope and then there's lying to yourself. She hopped over to the pile of scrap that were once droids, her fingers fluttering over them to check for components or materials. Not much that is worth more than what we already have. She mused out loud. Still, credits are credits. Veta looked over at Morgan to see he wasn't paying attention, a look in his eye telling her he was focusing on something else. She went back to pawing at the droid, just before it all went to shit. When it did, it happened fast. One moment she was checking if a circuit was still good, the next whining of plasma and steel was filling the chamber. She whirled around to see someone she didn't know, a Sith, furiously attacking her new boss, almost faster than she could keep up with. Seeing Morgan jump and dash around the place with inhuman speed was one thing, but two Sith fighting was enough to send waves of fear through her body. She clamped down on it, hard. I've killed raiders and soldiers and survived this cursed planet for a goddess-damned year, get a grip. Veta pulled her blasters, aiming at them. She knew Morgan could dodge bolts, she'd seen him do it enough, but she didn't want to distract him. Morgan looked pressed, leaving ground slowly as the other Sith attacked ruthlessly. The knife he had wielded to devastating effect sat discarded on the ground, telling her he either didn't think he needed it or couldn't afford to focus on it. The pair were silent, only the noise of biting impact and flashing lights filling the room. Veta tracked them, hoping for a clean shot. Not very likely, at these speeds. The other Sith jumped back, and in the second or so he was clear, Veta fired a stream of bolts at him. All were either dodged or slapped out of the air, and she gulped when the Sith's eyes burned into hers. Morgan took that moment of distraction to nearly take the stranger's head, smelling weakness. She slowed her breathing, holstering one blaster. She took careful aim with the other. Come on, come on. Help him here, and the chances of avoiding that blasted cage skyrocket. She breathed and waited for that one perfect moment she knew would come. That one instance where one well-placed shot could change everything. Could shift wars and topple regimes. When it finally came, the stranger pulling his head back just a little too far, she didn't hesitate. Plasma raced through the room, both Sith reacting near instantly. Morgan angled to the right. It forced his opponent left, straight into his death. The Sith jumped instead, but Veta knew he would. Knew it from watching Sith fight for months and months, from spying on them in the tomb, before her first capture, to watching her Sith owners fight and die. The bolt impacted his lower stomach, plasma shearing half of it away. No scream was uttered, and to Veta's horror what should have been a killing shot was ignored as a flesh wound. Except it made the Sith slow, just for a moment, and the discarded, forgotten vibroknife slipped into the stranger's skull with perfect silence. He dropped like a puppet with his strings cut, Morgan taking his head before the body had even fallen to the ground. What the fuck? Veta thought. Was that his plan all along? Did he plan for me to distract him? My thanks. Her boss said, he was a rather skilled opponent, and I would have hated to sacrifice another limb for victory so soon. His tone was light, but Veta could hear the strain in it. Would he have won that, had I not been here? Sure, she replied airily, like she didn't just help kill an actual Sith. What are friends for? Veta looked at the body briefly. Who was that, anyway? Morgan seemed surprised. Vamrin, the acolyte I beat to become Darth Baras's apprentice. I suppose you've never met him. Oh. She replied. I guess no more competition? He fell silent, and Veta panicked for a moment. Did I say something? No, get a grip, girl. Just wait for whatever he has to say. For each trial, the victor gets to choose a reward. The harder the task, the better the reward. He started seriously. When we finish this trial, I will choose you. Her heart sank, her mind jumping to her worst fears. That's it. I'm going to spend the rest of my life as a slave. A Sith's toy, now and forever. She plastered a smile on her face, as if her life wasn't over. As if her last hope, that one spark she should have known better about, hadn't been a lie after all. And when we get off Korriban, we will sell what you have scavenged here. She nodded, trying her hardest to bury her crushing disappointment. To make sure she gave him no reason to kill her. To survive, no matter the cost. Then we will each take half, and you will be free. Veta froze, her train of thought broken. What? He continued, not really looking at her. Free to go anywhere you wish. I recommend reuniting with family, then getting as far into wild space as you can. So far the words Sith or Empire hold no meaning. Both were silent for a second, Morgan looking at the body of the stranger and Veta's brain running in loops. You will set me free? She finally asked hesitantly. Morgan looked at her properly, face like steel. I will not lead slaves, Veta. Not now and not ever. As far as I'm concerned, you've earned it. When we get off Korriban, you will be free. He swore. He turned around, and Veta focused on him long enough to see embarrassment and regret in his posture. Then it was gone, and Morgan looked no different than usual. The indomitable warrior, breaking any that dared to stand in his path. The Sith, undaunting and unafraid. He wants to keep me. Her mind supplied. But he promised anyway. She looked back to the body on the floor, the smell of blood barely registering. Everybody lies. She reminded herself. So why do I believe him? Morgan walked into the hidden tomb proper, hearing Veta follow him silently. He hadn't felt this awkward in a long time. I don't feel a twinkle of nerves when a Darth is testing my shield or I'm fighting for my life, but promising Veta her freedom is too much for my composure, he scoffed softly, not noticing Veta nearly snapping her neck to look at him. Get a grip. She deserves her freedom and it's a crime you can never offer it to her in the game. She deserves it, and I have the power to make it so. End of story. The tomb of Naga Sadao was empty, and near the sarcophagus only statues filled the room. A high-domed ceiling and murals painting the walls made the room seem grand, but in reality it was maybe 100 feet across. This is the final resting place of a Dark Lord of the Sith? An Emperor? Ah, I was wondering if that was you I felt. How good to have a visitor. A man, old and in simple black robes, walked out of the wall. His body glowed white enough to not be transparent, but otherwise he looked like any ghost Morgan had ever seen. Well, seen as in movies and games. My lord. He bowed. Apologies for disturbing you. Veta had palmed her blasters, backing away to the door. Morgan thought that was probably smart. He stayed still anyway. The man waved. Nonsense. It's so rare I get visitors these days. My name is Elik Rogner. But before we continue this conversation, a test is in order. Morgan pulled his warblade, eyeing the statues around him. The Lord laughed merrily. Very good, acolyte. Very good. Survive, and we will speak. Die, and you join them. The Lord clapped his hands, yet no sound was produced by the gesture. The statues around the room shook, half the stone crumbling away. Veta shot the first statue that moved, plasma only leaving a groove. Morgan heard her curse, before several half-stone creatures jumped him. He shot his knife at one, but it snagged on stone. He vaulted away, attempting to reach the door and protect Veta so she could shoot freely. The statues seemed to dislike that idea. They also had no regard to personal health or survival, and he knew firsthand how dangerous that could be. Lucky they can't use the Force, or this would be suicide. He mused as he cut through another creature, his warblade carving flesh. Stone it could not part, and he cursed as his blade snagged on flesh-covered rock. He somersaulted away, tearing his warblade with him. He tried to jump to Veta again, only to be blocked by a pair of creatures throwing themselves on his blade. It shattered his momentum, and he pierced another on the ground as he came down. An explosion rocketed through the hall, and Morgan frowned. That's her last grenade. She won't last long, not alone. He threw caution to the wind, gripping limbs with the Force to slow attacks and boosting his blows beyond normal enforcement. Power bled from him, and he felt his reserves plummet. It bought him space, however, and he raced down the hall to where Veta had retreated to. Dozens of creatures sprinted after him, fast for those without the Force. He came upon Veta surrounded by dead stone men, and he cut through the two left with little problem. Superficial wounds covered her body, but she looked fine. "Oh," he said. "And here I was thinking you needed help." She grinned at him, their earlier awkwardness forgotten in the heat of battle. It does pay to be underestimated. Besides, they're tough but stupid. They also don't carry blasters, the idiots. She looked down the hall, dozens closing fast. "Could use some help with those," she admitted. Morgan laughed, turning to meet them. "Strange, I'm actually having fun." Plasma streaked past him as he charged, destroyed knees causing many to fall like dominoes. Stupid indeed. His warblade whined as he cut half the head off a stone man, even rock parting to his excessively enforced blows. With every creature he killed the pressure eased, but it was Veta that stopped him from being overwhelmed. Her knee shots were downing them faster than he could kill them, and a crawling stone creature wasn't near as dangerous as a walking one. After that all it took was work. He was covered in wounds, but they killed them all. Veta was stretching her hands, after, and he was cycling as the holocron had told him to. He'd been able to practice while walking through the tomb, enough so that he could almost enrich the blood in both of his arms. Not that he noticed any enhanced healing. Not yet. He promised himself. His hand was feeling better, if not quite back to how it was. Give it time. "Good work," he told Veta. She nodded, flashing a small smile, but it seemed they were back to the awkwardness. He resisted the urge to sigh. "This isn't what I wanted. I just thought she would want to know, not make things weird." "So tell her that." A part of his mind insisted. He stayed quiet. They walked back into the main room in silence, the ghost standing before the sarcophagus. He clapped slowly, no sound reaching their ears. "Very good. Excellent teamwork, proper enforcement and no hesitation to withdraw or play dirty." The ghost praised. "You'll go far. I can see why Marka Ragnos showed you his favor." Morgan narrowed his eyes. That actually was Lord Marka Ragnos? The Lord wiggled his hand. "Of a sort." He was about to ask another question when the ghost stopped him. "Don't," the Lord said. "Curiosity is good, but leave this. There are old things in this galaxy, Acolyte. Very old things. Not all as friendly as me, either." The ghost continued before Morgan could say anything to that. "Now, as I was saying, my name is Elik Rogner. I am not, as you might have surmised, Lord Naga Sadao." Something dropped behind Morgan, and he looked back to see a vase shattered on the ground. Veta was standing some feet from it, inspecting one of her blasters. Morgan chose to ignore that. "I was a lord in his service, once," the ghost continued, as if he hadn't even noticed. Bound to this tomb as its guardian. A common practice, back then. Once, acolytes came here for my advice. I was part of every graduate's trial, surviving my challenge a great honor. The Lord looked sadly to the door. But then my tomb was sealed, and I was still bound to it. To that stupid decoy corpse nobody has cared about for millennia. I was sent here for it. Morgan jumped in. Or more accurately, to the lightsaber that it is rumored to hold. My last trial. The ghost perked up. Ah. That brings me back. Well, you survived my test. Or rather crushed it, seeing as they refused to return when I summoned them. The Lord shrugged. Oh well, you survived. It was old alchemy anyway, bound to break sometime. Now, take the lightsaber and use it to cut that fake body in 100 little pieces. Then burn it, just to be sure. Morgan nodded. That is my task. But what does cutting the body bring me, exactly? My master might be angry if I destroy ancient artifacts for no reason. For no reason? The ghost sagged. I asked, yet you see no reason. Once, my word moved armies. Worlds. The Lord shook his head. Very well. You destroy the body, and I give you some advice. Are we in agreement? Morgan answered by pushing open the sarcophagus, summoning the lightsaber within to his hand. He activated it, dark red filling the room. Morgan looked to the corpse within, not seeing how this was a fake. Let's hope this isn't some really convoluted trap, he thought sarcastically. He hacked until there weren't pieces large enough to cut, then held the plasma to the pile. It caught flame easily, the ghost watching intently as it burned. Finally, he nodded. Very good. I can feel the hold over me weakening. He turned to Morgan, both of them ignoring a curious Veta that was snooping around the chamber. Listen well, Sith. I can feel how you draw on the Force. How you achieved balance, as the Jedi once did. Morgan took a step back, hand falling to his new lightsaber. The Lord chuckled darkly. If I attack you, little acolyte, that toy will not help you. I have studied the Force for millennia, and know more of its secrets than you likely ever will. But I have no desire to kill you, nor even reveal your secret. It is not an easy path to walk, make no mistake. Let no Lord catch you. Let no Jedi smell you. They will hunt you for its secrets. They will carve it from your bones, if you let them. The Lord faded, looking at the ceiling. Grow strong, little Sith, and quickly. This galaxy has no tolerance for those that are different. Morgan turned around when the ghost had faded entirely. Hunted, huh? He clipped his lightsaber to his belt, nodding to Veta when she joined him. They walked out of the tomb, his new lightsaber cutting through anything they came across with ease. Your passion clearly stems from slave roots. Darth Barras had told him. So let's find my passion. He thought, using the Force to fetch his knife from the torso of a beast. And that starts with getting the fuck off this planet. I am beside myself. Barras praised as Morgan walked into the chamber, dramatically holding a hand to his chest. Not only did you get the Twi'lek to cooperate, but you completed the task and claimed the ancient lightsaber. Morgan bowed his head, glad he had detoured to bring Veta to the med bay first. No need to subject her to him quite yet. The overseer that had given him so much trouble hadn't been there, and according to the staff hadn't been seen since their encounter. Veta will be fine, the treatment shouldn't take long, he told himself firmly. Vemrin was not in my chambers as I instructed. I take it he sought to stop you and claim the ancient weapon as his own. The Darth continued. He tried. Morgan replied, head bowed. Bravo. Barras praised again. I see you may indeed become one of the strongest Sith in the galaxy. Your trials are over. You are now my apprentice. As you say, my lord. The Darth laughed. This is only the beginning. With you as my right hand, we shall strike fear into the Empire's enemies. Barras stalked back to his desk. I must convene with the Emperor and inform him of your progress. This shuttle pass will take you to Dromund Kaas. Meet me at the citadel there. As you command, my lord. The Darth huffed another laugh. Take the Twi'lek slave as my gift. Do with her as you wish. If she'll be of use, by all means, take her with you. Fuck her, kill her or use her to sweep for mines. A reward well deserved. Morgan straightened. She has proven a capable combatant, and her skills complement my own. Barras hummed, picking up a datapad. It was a clear dismissal. I must ask a favor, my lord. Morgan asked. There is a holocron in the library, containing knowledge about Sith alchemy. I wish to take it with me to Dromund Kaas. The Darth looked up. Ah yes, that old thing. By all means, take it. It certainly isn't doing much good here, with how it refuses to teach anyone not able to pass its test. Barras leaned forward, clasping his hands under his chin. Tell me, how far along its lessons have you gotten? Morgan wondered if the librarians had been eavesdropping, not that it really mattered. This wasn't a secret he cared to keep, not from Barras. I've been able to enrich the blood in both my arms, but adding a third limb has proven difficult. Barras stayed silent, and if Morgan didn't know better, the Darth seemed surprised. You've had 2 lessons with it, correct? Yes, my lord. He confirmed. Interesting. Yes, be sure to bring it with you. Sith alchemy has many useful applications, fleshcrafting more than most. Thank you, my lord. Barras waved. Yes, yes. Away with you now, I have other business. Morgan bowed and left, steering to the library. It was all but empty, with only an old Sith librarian walking the rows. He approached the old man. Darth Barras has given me leave to take the holocron in Section 4C Row 7. He told the Sith. The librarian's eyebrows shot up. Is that so? That is most irregular. The man made no move to do anything. Do you doubt my word? Morgan asked. The man startled, as if having forgotten he was talking to someone. By the Emperor, no. If a Darth has given you leave, by all means, take it. Morgan frowned as he moved past him, putting the librarian out of his mind. Being surrounded by this many Sith artifacts must be addling his brain. The holocron was as he left it, the glass pristine and the holocron hovering just above the pedestal. He sat at the desk, focusing on the pathways to open it. They seemed narrower than ever, taking nearly 20 minutes to open. When he did, the voice drifted out. It sounded curious. Tell me, for research purposes, how long did that take you? Morgan tilted his head. About 20 minutes or so. The voice sighed. I'll make it harder next time. Now, why does my favorite acolyte seek my knowledge? Lose another limb? No, he responded dryly, but I have finished my last trial, becoming the apprentice to Darth Barras in the process. Congratulations, but you are not the apprentice. You are an apprentice. The voice snarked. Morgan nodded. True. Nonetheless, I asked permission to take you with me to Dromund Kaas, so that we might continue my fleshcrafting training. As such, he continued as the voice stayed silent, I feel it might be appropriate to give you a name. Referring to you as the voice is becoming tiresome. My name was not recorded in this holocron for a good reason, apprentice. The voice snapped, annoyed. As I've told you before. Morgan raised his hands placatingly. I did not mean your old name. I wish to give you a new one. A new name? What would I need a name for? The voice demanded. How about teacher? He suggested, ignoring the question. The voice wavered, uncertain. Teacher? Yes, teacher. Morgan repeated, liking the sound of it. It's what you are, is it not? You instruct students, and spend your last months of life ensuring fragile information would not be lost. Independent of faction or allegiance, caring only about knowledge. A teacher. He got the impression the holocron was shaking his head. Fine, fine. If you must name me, Teacher will do. Now, do you wish to learn? Always. Morgan confirmed, finding himself meaning it more than he thought he would. Teacher eagerly moved on. Good. Now, tell me how you fared enriching your blood. Did you manage to combi? A scalpel flashing in the light. Veta, laying still and cold on a table. Sith surrounded her, a strange artifact in their hands. Her eyes snapped open, cold as stone and sickly yellow. Acolytes and droids filled the room, all watching in absolute silence as she climbed off the table mechanically. The vision slammed into him, passing through his defenses as if they didn't exist. He jerked up hard, sending the table toppling over. Morgan half turned to the door before he heard Teacher shouting. Morgan! What happened? The holocron demanded. He enforced his body to the limit, not looking back. Veta. She's in danger. Med Bay. Take me. Teacher ordered. Morgan scooped the holocron off the pedestal, Teacher starting to hover the moment he left the confines of the glass. Teacher kept pace as Morgan dashed through the academy, acolytes jumping out of his way. Overseers tried to scold or even stop him, but he was past them before they could say more than a word. Teacher was hovering over his right shoulder when he entered the med bay, the whole room as quiet as the grave. He saw the med bay overseer pause as she was about to insert a device, something that looked to be a 5-pointed star, into Veta. Morgan froze as he saw her. Chest cut open, eyes closed and breathing shallow. 3 acolytes stood next to the overseer, who turned around with a sneer on her face. Wrath filled him. Rage so cold a tiny part of him wondered how he didn't freeze whole instantly. Anger that bellowed past his shield in torrents, causing near everyone in the room to flinch back. But he didn't see red. His mind was not addled with anger. He could not claim madness had taken him. So when his lightsaber cut the overseer in half, her block a touch too slow, he did so perfectly aware of the possible consequences. He couldn't claim to have lost control, as he broke the pathetic shield of the acolyte standing closest to Veta, shattering his mind. When he strangled the other 2, one with the force and the other with his hand, he was aware of what he was doing. He applied more pressure, 2 snapping sounds heralding 2 more dead. He didn't care. The room was still silent as he holstered his lightsaber, 4 bodies at his feet. It couldn't have taken more than 3 seconds. Teacher floated over to Veta. This is her, I take it? Morgan nodded silently, staring at her open, beating chest. He reined in the temptation to slaughter the rest of the room, breathing deeply to regain balance. That, Teacher dipped to the device, was to replace her heart, to eat and supplant it. Clever little device. Would have turned her own body against her, most likely as an assassin or spy. Morgan ignored that, and how it made him want to kill the overseer all over again, to point at a medical droid. Undo everything done to her. Acknowledged. The droid responded as it moved close. The procedure was not completed, nor any foreign elements added to her. It went to work as Morgan watched, slowly stitching her up. He didn't turn around when he felt 3 relatively powerful entities move into the med bay, seeing Teacher fly past him to greet them. Best not, overseers, he said, stopping them at the door. Unless you would like to end up as the woman on the floor? The 3 halted, probably to argue. Morgan ignored everything they, or Teacher, said. He watched as the droid patched Veta up again, slowly regaining inner balance. Anger bled away to give room for guilt, something he hadn't felt for a long time. This is my fault. He thought. I left her here, believing the word of some acolyte that she would be safe. My fault she almost died. My fault she was almost turned into a monster. My fault. His mind repeated. The first thing Veta noticed was the smell of blood. It was a smell she was familiar with, and one not unexpected. Every place of healing was filled with it, sooner or later. The strength of it alarmed her, however, so she fought to see. When she, with great effort, finally opened her eyes, she noticed the second normal occurrence in every place of healing. Bodies. Corpses were common, for no one could cure every disease, heal every wound. Bodies were not unexpected. What turned her alarm into confusion was seeing the bodies on the ground, numbering 4, and that her boss was looming over them. The fact that one of the bodies, who she vaguely remembered to be the overseer of the med bay, was cut in half didn't help. Holy shit, I was drugged, she thought as her memory returned. That droid injected me with something, and also why does my stomach hurt? Ah, she is awake, a cube said, hovering near Morgan's shoulder. The owner of that shoulder turned around, looking more dangerous than Veta had ever seen him. Drops of blood were splattered on his face carved from stone. That combined with seeing him stand over 4 dead Sith did strange things to Veta's stomach. Or that might be the giant scar, she mused, just before she snapped her head down again. Okay, what exactly happened here? Veta asked when Morgan stayed silent. The cube answered her. Well, the former overseer here, the cube pointed to the half-woman in the corner, drugged you, cut you open and attempted to insert an alchemical device into you. The purpose of which was to turn you into an assassin or spy, as far as I've been able to determine. I'm sure it will reveal more information with proper study, something I'm looking forward to. Her boss finally moved, grabbing the 5-pointed star thing and shattering it. Smoke escaped, deep and purple, before it dissolved. The cube sighed. Or I suppose we could learn nothing, giving in to our base desire of destruction. Why aren't you saying anything? Veta asked Morgan directly, turning to face him fully. He bowed his head. Because it's my fault. I shouldn't have believed the acolytes when they told us she hadn't been seen. I should have stayed, or done as before and taken a droid to treat you somewhere safe. It's my fault, he repeated. And I'm sorry. He kept his head bowed, not looking at her. She huffed, irritated. Right. So you're the one that cut me open? She talked over him when he tried to respond. You drugged me, tried to turn me into whatever the cube said. He tried to speak again, but Veta motioned to his feet. And when you discovered what was happening, you did nothing, did you? No, she said, angry for a reason she couldn't quite name. You killed 4 Sith and stitched me up. All I paid for it is a new scar, and that's not so bad for surviving Korriban. Incorrect. The medical droid interrupted. The incision was properly performed, no scar tissue will remain. She pointed to it, victorious. Veta looked back to see him stare at her, eyes searching. He was worried. She realized. How I would react, or about me? She looked back to the floor, where one of the bodies was leaking blood from every orifice in his head. That's the second time he's killed or crippled someone to protect me. Her mind supplied. When's the last time someone did that for me, exactly? When she looked back, Morgan looked like a Sith again, stern and hard. Veta briefly wondered if she had imagined it. You're not leaving my side until we're off Korriban, her boss commanded. Which happens to be right now. Get your gear, we leave in 5. She grinned, hopping off the bed. I should be terrified, surrounded by Sith and nearly turned into a puppet. But I'm not. She changed into her old gear, holstering her blasters and looking around the room. They sure seemed to be. The med bay was filled to the brim, every bed occupied. Yet no one had made a sound, not now nor since she had woken up. She looked back to the bodies, warmth spreading through her. How long has it been, having someone worry about me? Care if I die? I see you are no worse for wear. The cube spoke. She looked back to see him float over, abandoning her boss to his staring match with the overseers. Good. He reacted rather impulsively when he got his vision, but it could have turned out worse. She waved at the cube. Nice to meet ya, cubie. He choked. I should have let you die. I will stand to be called teacher, not that I'm agreeing with my acolyte's notion that I need a name, but I will not be called cubie. Veta smirked. Oh fine, but only because I'm in a good mood. Nice to meet ya, teacher. Teacher dipped. And you? He kept hovering beside her as she finished checking her pouches, finding her loot still secure. Her mind finally processed what he had said. Wait, what do you mean? What vision? She got the impression teacher was raising an eyebrow. The one Morgan got when he was in the library with me. One that, apparently, warned him of your predicament. That's something that can happen? She asked, surprised. Indeed. How often? She probed eagerly. To who? Just Sith, or normal people as well, he wobbled. Not too often. And admittedly only then to Sith Lords or Jedi Masters. That he received one not only as a mere acolyte but about a specific event is rather interesting, wouldn't you say? She thought back to when Morgan had explained the Force to her, back in the tomb. It is everything. He had said. Always. It connects every living being, be they biological or not. It is, in a way, the universe itself. The universe warned him I was in danger? I see from the look on your face that you are starting to grasp what that might mean. Teacher commented. She looked over to see Morgan had graduated from a staring match into answering increasingly heated questions with one-word answers. She shook her head. That makes no sense. I met him days ago. Barely know him, really. Do you? The cube asked. Do you really know him so little? You know what he will do when pressed, or cornered. You know how he fights, how he treats those above or below him. Teacher floated closer. Extreme stress forges bonds faster than anything, mark my words. With that the cube floated away, leaving Veta to her thoughts. Thoughts that were straying in dangerous directions. Maybe I do know him, a bit. I know he will protect me, should it be needed. She looked at the bodies again. Hard to argue he won't. We make a good team, and with how little he seems to know about day-to-day life he might need a guide. Veta roughly shook her head, seeing Morgan was done with the overseers. She saw how they kept their weapons close to hand, how they tensed when he walked past them. And it's safer with the predator than with the prey. She forcefully pulled her mind away from the subject, keeping her eyes moving. They walked through the halls and out of the academy, heat scorching her face as they moved. She looked on as acolytes moved out of the way. How some even bowed. How soldiers straightened as they walked to the port, inches away from saluting. She said nothing as the pilot greeted them at the door, or when surprise shuttered over his old face as her boss stuck out his hand in greeting. They were in the air soon after, Veta snacking on some nuts that the younger co-pilot had laid out in front of her boss. She stuck her tongue out at her when she glared, enjoying the fact that the woman couldn't really say anything. Not without disturbing the Sith, who was staring out the window. The shuttle was small, but they were the only people on board. Veta resisted laughing when Morgan's head snapped both ways, only now noticing that they were the only passengers. She wondered what he was thinking about, glaring out of that window. What plans or deep wisdom was going on in his head? Wait, didn't he say he woke up in a shuttle, already on Korriban? She suddenly realized. And he didn't know how credits worked, or how much they were worth. She eyed Morgan suspiciously. So distracted he didn't notice we were alone on a shuttle for 20, eyes glued to the window since we took off. Her eyes widened, a theory forming. He's from a primitive planet, probably never been to space. She fought hard to not say anything, lest she ruin the experience. I could be wrong. They cleared the atmosphere, Korriban shrinking behind them. She watched him tense as he looked out into the never-ending expanse of darkness, his hand flexing. But probably not. It wasn't long until they passed the station orbiting Korriban. From there the shuttle took them straight into hyperspace, Morgan tensing again. Veta relaxed, enjoying the absolute lack of anything on Morgan's face as light formed a tunnel around the ship. I recommend not looking at it too long. She commented idly. Tends to stress the mind. Morgan calmly nodded, very clearly showing no signs of panic or unease, and began eating the few nuts she had generously left for him. She took a small nap as they traveled, the colto in her system making the seat more comfortable than it should. Soon enough they docked at the Imperial fleet, both pilots seeing them off. Veta ignored the tingle in her stomach when the younger pilot blushed as she shook Morgan's hand goodbye, reasoning it was the scar healing. "Have you been here before?" Morgan asked her as she walked forward with purpose. "No," she admitted. "But I've been to places like it." She led them deep, taking turns and lifts ever down into the bowels of the station. When the streets were unkept and everyone walked with hands close to their blasters, she ducked into a little food shop. Veta was so caught up feeling at home again she startled when Morgan sat opposite her. She fought embarrassment when she realized she just led a Sith into a cheap hole in the wall. "I figured you'd like a place that didn't bow and scrape every time you breathed." She covered quickly, the unease in her stomach lessening when he nodded. "It's preferable," her boss said. "But I didn't think places like this existed, not here on the Imperial fleet." She snorted. "Places like this always exist. The rich wish not to look upon the poor, yet someone needs to serve them." Morgan laughed softly, staring at a menu they'd been handed by a rusted astromech. He raised an eyebrow. "I assume that by contains meat they don't mean actual real meat, right?" "No." Veta deadpanned. "They do not. It's close enough, probably." She looked at him curiously. "Have a lot of meat, where you grew up?" Morgan sighed. "It doesn't matter where I grew up, not anymore." She raised a hand in surrender, before choosing item 34 for both of them. Veta explained as the astromech rolled off. "Best chance that's going to taste good, and it's pretty cheap. You do realize we don't have any money, right? Unless they take payment in salvage." Veta smirked, taking a handful of credits from one of her pouches. "Kindly donated to us from that sleeping overseer in the med bay." Morgan sighed. "When did you even take those?" She grinned at him. "I have my ways. Safe to say we have enough to cover the meal, not that whatever cheap security here could stop you. I prefer my first visit to the Imperial fleet to not involve petty robbery," he said blandly. Her reply was interrupted by the arrival of the food, and she dug in with enthusiasm. Even cheap synthesized noodles tasted heavenly compared to ration bars, so the next few minutes both of them silently chewed in delight. Until a duo of mean-looking individuals barged in, looming over their table. "Don't you look like a cute couple?" The left one sneered. "Better hand over what you've got, or your pretty Twi'lek is going to become less pretty." Veta nearly choked on her food when the would-be robber flinched back, Morgan's knife floating an inch from his eye. He tripped, falling backwards. In his haste to stabilize himself he grabbed at his companion, both falling into a tangle of limbs. "That was pathetic," Morgan judged. "From the threat to the execution. Get out of my sight, before I remove both of you from the gene pool." They scrambled out, leaving Veta to desperately try and swallow, laugh and breathe at the same time. She looked at Morgan as she calmed down, noticing how he hadn't even stopped eating. "So did the Sith teach you that?" "Teach me what?" "How to hide fear. I've never really seen you intimidated or scared, and I know how to look for it." "Oh, that." Morgan waved his hand. "No, it's not because I'm good at hiding emotions, though I am. It's because I don't really feel it." She looked at him doubtfully. "You don't get scared? How's that even possible?" Morgan put his food down, thinking. "It was about 2 months in, I think, when the overseer had made some others stay behind after morning training. This was some 10 months ago, mind you, long before we met. We showed hesitation, you see. Fear." He knocked on the table, the sound echoing in the silent shop. "And proper Sith do not fear. They do not hesitate because of pain." He shrugged. "So she made us experience true pain, something deeper than flesh, with what she called an interesting variation of Sith lightning." Veta saw his eyes go distant, feeling her own heartbeat skyrocket. For about 3 weeks she did that, until something had to give. For others it was their mind. You could see it, when the spark in their eyes died. The lights are on, but no one's home, as they say. No emotions or desire, no rage or fear. Just, broken. She felt her stomach contract, fearing what he would say next. I did too, but differently. I broke as she had intended. Accepted that I was dead, and that dead men fear no pain. He shrugged again, Vetta's heart bleeding sympathy. Haven't feared for my safety since, and found pain means less than nothing to me. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I'm sorry you had to go through that. He tilted his head, and for the first time Vetta thought he looked broken. I don't think about it much, truthfully. She didn't know what to say to that, so silence reigned until she couldn't stand it. I understand, she blurted, cursing herself immediately afterward. Great fucking job, how could you possibly understand that? Instead of getting upset or angry, as she had feared, he looked at her. Really looked at her, eyes piercing so deeply she couldn't look away even if she wanted to. He nodded slowly, seriously, and then the moment was gone. He picked up his food, scanning the shitty little cantina lazily. Her heartbeat slowly returned to normal, even as she still felt awful for him. That explains a lot about you. And here's to thinking I couldn't possibly hate the Sith more. They finished soon after, Vetta paying with her scavenged credits, and she led them towards what passed for a market. Finding a place to bargain and trade was always easy, seeing as people were always either going to or leaving them. Morgan stopped as they reached it, looking it over from their vantage point. Well then, let's finish up and you can be on your way. Vetta couldn't tell if he was sad about that, not from just his voice, but she was starting to have doubts. I've been thinking, she began, Morgan turning to look at her. Maybe it wouldn't be the worst idea if I stuck around. Morgan said nothing, Vetta rushing out the words. She didn't notice how his eyes widened in surprise. You know, I'd get to lie, steal and plunder, legally and for profit. I've got a big bad Sith to protect me and seeing more of the galaxy is always fun. She fell silent when he raised his hand, wondering why she was so jittery. I would be happy to have you, Morgan said slowly. But I want you to have an informed choice. He took a breath, and Vetta suddenly wondered if he was as irrationally nervous as she was. Everyone has this idea about the Sith and what they do, but it all boils down to death. We live it, deal in it. It's our trade and profession, and we're generally very good at it. The code tells us to follow passion, and to an extent we do. But our passion is so often ambition, and the dark revels in betrayal. In war and misery. He looked at her. That would be the job, Vetta. We would be killing those that deserve it, and those that don't. The wicked and the innocent. For good reasons or no reason at all. We kill those Darth Barras commands me to, and that won't change for a long while. She swallowed a shitty joke, forcing herself to listen. And when I kill, I feel nothing. No guilt or remorse, no sleepless nights. I don't know if the overseer made me this way, that she broke something that I won't ever get back, or that I was always like this. I'm not saying this to drive you away, he said with a wince, but choosing to stay might come with strings I have no power over. Not now, and maybe not for a long time. Vetta smiled sadly when he finished, thinking back to someone long gone. Someone I knew as a child told me to always reward honesty with honesty, and I try to live by that. So here goes. She took a deep breath. People don't really care what happens to me. Not really. They would be sad, some of them, but for most life would go on. A few would help me, maybe, if the price wasn't too high. Most wouldn't. She forced a grin. And then you saved my life twice in as many days, no thought to the consequences. Killed those all but untouchable because they hurt me. Butchered those that tried to kill me. Isn't that sad? That in 2 days you risked more for me than anyone I can remember. She shook her head, Leku bouncing. I'm suspicious of kindness, you know that. So when you took the collar off I expected to pay for it, somehow. When you promised to set me free, I was so sure it was a lie. Yet here we are. You were going to let me go, weren't you? He nodded, she scowled. A Sith showed me more kindness in 2 days than most have in a lifetime. So maybe you don't care about killing. Don't care all that much myself. Veta sighed, forcing herself past the nerves. We could debate all day about morality and risk. I want to stay, and damn to the consequences. How about you? He smiled, and for once she saw it reach his eyes. As I said, I would be happy to have you. She stuck out her hand, a grin on her face. Morgan shook it firmly. Partners? Partners, she echoed. Then, because her mouth and brain weren't properly connected. Me and my body the Sith. Nobody's going to pick on me at school. Veta saw him raise an eyebrow. She waved, turning away to hide her blush. Kindly ignore that last comment. So, she forged on bravely, what do you want to spend those credits on? Armor, he said firmly. Preferably something that doesn't scream Sith. She walked to a merchant, putting her hand in a pouch and taking out a circuit. Armor it is. But first, offloading all that shiny loot. Morgan stayed silent as Veta and a Rhodian haggled rapidly, gesturing wildly to the armor on display. The suit was matte black, with only streaks of grey to prevent the whole thing from being one color. No helmet or face mask was provided, which was a shame. Other than the left pauldron being slightly bigger, the whole thing was uninteresting to look at. Just as he liked it. As tempting as it is to walk into the dark citadel wearing bright pink, best if we stay somewhat Sith-like. He thought, listening as Veta argued the price lower and lower. Fine, the Rhodian almost shouted, throwing his hand up, but not a credit lower than 7,000. You're already starving my children at that price. They shook on it, Morgan taking it to change in an alley nearby. The suit fit well, being made for his body type. Veta whistled as he walked out, nodding to herself. Intimidating, that's good. Not too Sithy either, but close enough they won't complain. Morgan looked at her, her own armor already bought and paid for an hour ago. Mostly brown and green, with less plating than his own. Plenty of pockets and pouches were strewn across, her 2 blasters hanging off her hips. Won't stop a lightsaber, Morgan agreed, but should stop the stray bolt from tearing my limbs off. Unlike mine, you mean? Veta smirked. I prefer mobility. As you've stated before. Morgan rolled his eyes, not wishing to get back into that argument. He had tried to get her to buy something more protective. Veta had disagreed. Loudly. Neither suit had helmets, something they would have to rectify before going into the field, but for now they were as protected as they could be. They bickered quietly about the benefits of heavy and light plating as they made their way to the transport that would take them to Dromund Kaas. Morgan ignored the Durst officer trying to get his attention. This one was a regular transport, and while they got some looks, no one recognized him as Sith. Or if they do, they are wise enough to stay silent. Thank God I'm not wearing red anymore, I've seen enough of that for a lifetime. The wait was short, having picked the first available flight, and before long the strange feeling of hyperspace came over him. He patted the pouch with teacher in it, who had gone silent a while ago to prepare his training. No windows this time. He thought. Good. Rather not watch reality blend like a smoothie again. Veta hissed when someone behind them kicked her chair, mumbling something about spacing children. Veta's cute when she's angry. His mind conjured. Morgan closed his eyes, sinking into meditation. Let's take care of that right now. I'm not ruining this partnership with an actual crush. I'm not a damn teenager, for Christ's sake. He pressed it down, not examining the emotion too closely. He frowned when it bounced back, slowly, when he stopped pressing. That's a fun new daily chore. He snarked internally. He came out of mediation, Veta looking at him curiously. A flare of affection came, but it felt less crushy than before. Good enough. Unless either of you want to take it? Neither the light nor dark responded, so he looked to the front of the shuttle. A screen displayed their arrival time, Morgan closing his eyes for a quick nap. Next stop, Dromund Kaas. I'm sure it will go swimmingly. No invasions, rebellions or cursed temples to be seen, no sir. He swallowed a snort. Yea, right. His mind went back to Veta, unbidden. But at least I'm not alone this time.